1 minute. And we're doing this live on the internet, so if you see your face on the screen or anywhere, just smile. This will be the blessing ceremony from the Gabalan tribe in 30 seconds. Counting down.
Dapat na daw tarman na daw si Yawa Munisipum ni daw panapanang daw kaya si kaya daw nawik dak tagi ya si sangato timitangi ka sa pau pay tagi ba kaya baya
tangi melao timai mua sisanga sania
nasania cinta da ete tatangi
mau tu imi tangi melao timai mua sisanga sania
si sepau pami kat jawa mici jawa nakak diak daw dawat na kanyak to hak daw na di noyan daw kayo nakak daw tangi daw silip timay mo na ba daw naknasa di kas katuloy imit baka daw na ni kasaso baka daw mauto simana timay mitaw daw wani daw nawik niyak tangi mga to okay, silpakta, anagta. Ako na diisi. Zawa isi na ni kumuhay na ni yawa natupos na daw isi. Daw na ni tatasaw haw. Daw naka daw na ni nang daw nakunoy daw magkano daw tawik niyak tangi si ayaw imong malabo kuman kan alilida kita kasat namamnid na si tapay mi sa pau pay mi timay mo. Dawat na kanyak tangin na nito isisi na daw awaway niyak na daw na noob na daw na raw na daw ay min daw na yento min sa takay mi. Kas katulo daw at na kanyak may kulisama na daw ay mi daw smuba timay mo tangi si kaso pakitam ni daw kusakusadoy nanti makapungos. nazawa nakanyak tangi timatazawa naknasan ni moto pukok si nyana pa nazawa sampaw niyak tangi saja kemaran nani may makaingo zawa wayo kemaran may ay tangi zawa sa kinay sayda yaw kizaya sayda yaw turuko sayda hayatu sayda puno sayda sautu sayda mapang ni kapten niya usapan di mizawa dokon na zawat nuf na raw anang iya saya na kalili zakimi na sinayo manita kanya kaya tananta Melidak, melidak, melidak kita, melidak kita, melidak, melidak, melidak kita, melidak kita, melidak, melidak, melidak kita.
Good morning. I'm not sure what you're laughing about. Did I miss anything? Ayangamun naska tadamun nasarim. Good morning. Did you get some good sleep last night? Doesn't sound like it. Did you get some good sleep last night? Okay, good. 在我们进行第一个演讲之前，我们要先感谢我们2位翻译，一位是柯乃瑜小姐，另外是龚嘉华小姐。我们是不是给我们的2位翻译一个掌声？我这一段讲中文的原因是因为我们已经付钱了，所以我讲的越多中文越划算。Now we will proceed to the first keynote speaker for today. Dr. Masaksa Gadu is currently the director of National Museum of Prehistory in Taiwan. Before joining the museum, Dr. Gadu served as an associate professor at the Department of Indigenous Languages and Communications and the director at the Graduate Institute of Taiwan Ethno-Development. Dr. Gadu specialized in ethno-religious studies, Christianity, comparative cultural studies, and research work regarding the Baiwan, which is my tribe. Let's welcome our next speaker, Dr. Gadu, to present on the topic of bridging Taiwan and Austronesian with cultural heritage. And just so you know, the Baiwan, my tribe, our tribe, are not famous for being tall. We're famous for being smart. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of my colleague of this museum, I would like to express my gratitude to the Taiwan 2010 Witbc chairperson and the member and our outstanding guests in this building. I am the Masagsig General Gado. Before my presentation, I would like to use the very traditional way to welcome all of you by playing the double nose flute. This is quite old flute I have, and I'm now sincerely welcome to you with the songs. For a Taiwan person, you can look my PowerPoint now. A person who have full names. My original name, Masagsuk Jingro Regado, that originally Taiwan name. But also I have Iwamoto Jiro. This is Japanese name. And my official name on this moment is the Tong Chun Fa. And I became a Christian. I have a Christian name, Christopher. And I married with the Hokkien girl, Chun Huat. All the name has the long history and related to one person. It's the same to Taiwan. How about Taiwan? Getting to know Taiwan. Taiwan has a lot of names too, different names. Historically, all by the indigenous people for the honor of these islands, with different languages, different identity of these islands. I'm not going through a whole the name. I just showed in my presentation. And this is holy land for indigenous people. All the indigenous people have the holy mountain. There's a sacred land, sacred river, the sacred place, animal, plants. This is the holy land for indigenous people. And also we know Taiwan biodiversity. This is what the very important result report from the government, or from different aspects of the researcher, talking that how rich the Taiwan. So from this point of view, we learn biodiversity here. You learn winter in supposed to be very hot these couple of days. You experience something different we have before. Sharing how winter here, but actually this is quite hard place. Strong wind, but also how important for us to know this is the island. We linkage with the sea, with the wind, with the spirits of indigenous people, and with what you're doing and what we're expecting from this conference. And to know Taiwan is so important to emphasize the diverse ethnicity here. There's a name you can follow, but unnecessarily to follow all the name. I just show how diversified of the ethnic group here in Taiwan. So this is how we spread out whole islands. And of course there's Akio Island there. We saw the movie last night, how the linkage with the Bhutanese. And we have to know Taiwan in the perspective of language. Most of the historians said Taiwan history is about 400 and 500 years. But for us as indigenous people, the son of this mother, Taiwan Islands, know our history not only 500. This is what I want to emphasize here, that there is something important we call the Singkang literature here, talking that the Dutch, when they came here, there's already Siraya people. That means we already exist for a long, long time. The little I will share how the archaeological evidence. So in that time, this is important to show how existing of the indigenous people here, because the relationship with the Dutch, with the written system and Romanize the written system. And also the way of oral delivery information as well as pass message. We know that we heard from Masao, the chair, in the first day presentation, that we use a lot thing, way to communicate other. In the mountain, not allowed to say any bad words. We're always singing, Annanaduo, that's very familiar for the Bunun. We're always through the singing, beautiful harmony to communicate others from the other side of mountain to this side of the mountain. This is the real how right relationship of the people and the natural resources in natural environment as well. And we use a lot symbols to express how the beautiful in our mind, in spiritual, in our inside of all the things around us. We don't have arts, the term arts, but we have the we have the beautiful, the term beautiful for whatever can express from our inner side. So later you will understand what I'm saying here. Look this, and the right picture that the wood being show up how the authority of the chief. This is in the wedding. So we have to build up that to show how the power of the chief in the community. So actually, each of the ethnic group here, independent state or nation, actually. And what's our dream? Children is our future in our community. So you can realize how Taiwan so care, so minding, they have to carry what's the beautiful thing inside the mother. And the children is the picture of the mother from born unto pass away. This is the whole dream and what's the beautiful thing coming up from the life of human. So you can say they are not couple. They are the brother and sister. They are the chief family. You can show how Taiwan people really minding about the beautiful of life. But we experience Japanese, so we have a Japanese character, the Bible, and that is the written. This is from my father. You can realize that 1983. I still keep my father's handwriting in Japanese, although my father passed away. And we learn the Chinese character, that's a popoma for there. And we use that for the textbook and translating Bible and hymn book. And later we have the Roman alphabetic, produce the textbooks at school, Bible and hymn translation, literature, dictionary, examination today. So yesterday Akio was complaining about why we have to take examination. And one very important, I have to emphasize what I'm doing these couple years. I longly spent in the high mountain. That's the side of Taiwan. Taiwan has the special, unique culture or social system to name the land like we naming the newborn baby. The person who first open up the land, you should name the land. We identify land with the name. And we categorize the resources by different name. I will show later and what exists in the old people in the community. Each pieces of land in this Puma village, there is the name. We understand, we build up the right relationship with natural environment, land, all the resources by name. So important for us to give the right understanding, right relationship, and right direction for all the life. So a lot they related to the earth, the land ethic coming up and build up already the very, very like the net system in our traditional knowledge. That's what Agav said. We have a really good ancestor build up this kind of system to understand how natural resources are important for us. And this is the picture. I'm spent 3 years in this mountain. And this is the Taosan, the most high mountain in the south of Taiwan. This is the Holy Mountain. And we here in the Puma and Amis, the Holy Mountain, in my left side, that's the Tulan Mountain. So if I say, they say this, you see, this is the sacred land here. This is the original how God created the Paiwan people. So this is the different the site of how they grow and moving. But what's the important thing is, river is the sacred place. People prohibited to build any house beside the lake or the river, because that's God's way or the path to overlook all the land. And also the top of the mountain, you can realize that the different mountain here, from here, go up to here. And God put the human being near to the heart. So this is what they said, the heart of God. So this is our understanding how the human and how the relation of human and the natural environment is so important for us. But we forget this kind of knowledge, so we have the damaged environment today. No, so this is what I want to share in the bottom here, the painful experiences of indigenous people. We're talking about language, that's because of monoculturalism policy, monolingual policy, not allowed to have your own mother tongue in the one language policy of the government in the past. So this is the real problem, what we have to do something more than we have before. We have to pay price to do that. So how about WITBC in this point of view? So we have different indigenous movements around the world. And what I want to share here is we found Austronesian people. So I'm go through very fastly. That's a collection of evidence, DNA studies. We found with our relationship, Malay Polynesian language, the family, we're the one. So this is the Bill Wood, what he said, how move the language of Malay Polynesian people and exchange resources. We learn from today, from the past couple years, you've been done the great work. And we will maintain and develop all the close relationship for all of us. So this is what I want to say for everybody here, to let's fight for our rights. Through what you're doing, to do something good for our future. And comparative study, this is what we're doing now. Comparative study within Taiwan and with Austronesian and with around the world. This is what we try to do is. So bridging families. This is what I'm right to share. Last year, we have the bridging with cultural heritage, so the picture to you. I have all the presentation content here, but this is what last year we done as a very important, very interesting thing. You can follow the words in the picture. That's Rukai and Mr. Danny Hazama, a really great contribution of this exhibition last year. Yes, the face. You can realize this. How close are each other tattoos. And Lima, Lima, the Lima, and also the hand. We can, the daily life, how they make the beautiful. Agriculture, so close each other. Cooking, we experience in the banquet. And clothing, we have a lot beautiful thing. It's like me. This is the Taiwan. You can realize how beautiful of me. So, can you? We realize that, and we're the carved, sharing how we create beautiful thing. And mata, that's the heart. Ritual performance. This is how we decorate a house, the chief house. How to remark how the power of the chief, how the symbol we use for express our existence. And looking forward to the future, I have something here, but I want to emphasize for ending, that's the last one. How about our conference? It's that concerning about youth camp and the future. Let's do something good for our children. Do something beautiful dream for our youth. Let's have a youth workshop, youth camp, and next council. Thank you very much.
Well, our beautiful presenter is not here, so I just introduce myself. I'm Sylvia Fong from Public Television. Thank you. I want to first thank Dr. Tong for his beautiful presentation. I think he did a great job of giving us a comprehensive and thought-provoking review of the situation. It's the crystallization of whole lifetime's research and devotion. So it's hard to follow this wonderful presentation. The only thing I can do is to use Patagal's suitcase, Louis Vuitton suitcase, and make myself look taller. Good morning, my dear colleagues and friends. First, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to Taidong for this second Witbc conference, and for your presence. We're very honored by your presence and active participation in this conference. And I want to express my greatest appreciation, particularly to our guests to all of our friends from abroad, from South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Scotland, and Ireland, and Canada, and Singapore. I know you've come a long way, and I know most of you, for most of you, it's the first time you're here in Taiwan. But I sincerely hope that what we have managed to do here have made such an impression on you that you want to come back again, as Tenanga has. Today, I'd like to share with you our experience at PTS in nurturing an exciting new service on the internet that is an open platform for ordinary citizens to post their news stories and thereby create an impact on what happens in the public domain. And how does that work? Let's first watch a video. Some of the pictures you just seen were shot in last August by PTS citizen reporters during the worst typhoon we've had in 50 years. These citizen reporters did such a great job that their stories contributed directly to relief efforts, even from abroad. Here's an example.
公民记者来一箱酒拉卡拉酒告诉我们说，康德基金会的工作人员透过 PEPL 公民新闻平台掌握灾区的讯息，赶在开学前把爱心送到部落。
他们一来就说，你就是看那个 PEPL 平台才知道这边的那个状况怎么样啊？他的确就是这么跟我讲啊。
Okay, the Candor Foundation, by the way, is based in Los Angeles. Of the United States. And what's more interesting is that these citizen reporters were the first to alert the public to the severe damages caused by the typhoon, hours before the government came to realize the magnitude of the disaster. And they even beat all the 24-hour TV news channels. And this is not easy in Taiwan. What you're going to see is probably a world record. Okay. This is the current media situation in Taiwan. It's probably hard for you to imagine what kind of competition we face in the TV news business. Just to give you a general idea, in an island of 23 million people, there are 8 24-hour news channels. And every evening, there are 18 national newscasts competing for audience attention during prime time. So what do the commercial stations do to grab the audience? They sensationalize a lot, of course, and they polarize sensitive issues. So as a result, they lose public trust. And I'm sorry, I'll have to go back to the previous page. And lots of people are fed up. So we provided an alternative, which is the People Post platform. And we can look at the indigenous situation in the media as well. As you're all well familiar with, both the indigenous people and their issues are underrepresented, marginalized, and misunderstood. So this is what we started. It's a grassroots initiative made possible on the internet. And our citizen reporters turn from passive consumers to active participants in the issues concerning the communities, concerning their lives, their homes, their families, the environment. We launched this platform in April 2007. It's entirely UGC. And we created a special page.
家长还有老师，我们也两个礼拜以前，我们也召开
All these reports are
跟家长
filed by citizen
面对面
reporters.
做一些沟通。关于就是说刚那个说把学生关在厕所那个，我
And
刚刚也
on
跟
this
老师
special page, we had videos, photos, and text. And how does one get to be a citizen reporter? You just sign up. The only thing we require is that the person present his or her ID so we know who he or she is. I think to sum up, these are the characteristics of this platform. It's grassroots, it's empowerment, and it's not personal stories. It's social issue oriented, and it encourages dialogue. And these are some facts about Pebble. It's called People Post, and we call it Pebble in Taiwanese. Pebble meaning a smart way of doing things. So far, we have had more than 3,000 citizen journalists getting on board, and more than 30,000 new stories filed. And we have more than 500,000 visitors per month. And this is what we do. We conduct workshops. We do training upon request. So all the NPOs or people in the community who need to be trained can just call us up, and we'll go to them, or maybe they can attend workshops that we arranged. And we hold parties and meetings for them. We have an annual symposium. We have summer camps. And we have established more than 10 centers in universities throughout the island. And we also have an annual award. And the stories that they filed are widely quoted by mainstream media. Coming back to the worst typhoon I just talked about, Typhoon Morakot in last August. This incident showcases the impact of Pebble. To show you just the magnitude of the disaster, this red column represents just one day of rainfall that we experienced on August 8th, compared with annual rainfall. It's 4 times as much of that of London or Paris, in just one day. It was the worst flooding, and the devastation concentrated in indigenous areas. And the property loss was more than $1 billion, and we lost more than 700 lives. And indigenous communities suffered the most. And what did our citizen reporters do in their stories? They file stories on the victims and the kind of help they need, and also on reconstruction work. This is particularly important because after about a month, all the other media people just withdrew and just forgot about the whole thing, but reconstruction just got started. So only PTS and TITV, only PTS channels and our citizen reporters continue to be concerned about the situation and continue to cover stories, especially in remote areas. We can take a look here. This is on August 7th, before the typhoon, the damage was caused. One citizen reporter in Yilan already alerted the public about the incredible volume of the rainfall. And I think he was being even more sensitive than our Central Weather Bureau. And this is on August 8th, the first ever disaster report coming out of anywhere, and it came from one of our citizen reporters. And this is another one from Jiayi. The woman in the yellow raincoat is a citizen reporter. She says it's much faster to get help if you post your story on the People Post. And the other guy who's filming her is also a citizen reporter. And another one from Pingdong County, which was severely stricken. And this amazing citizen reporter from Tainan, he's mildly disabled, he's a lottery vendor, and so far he has posted more than 100 stories. And as a result of his dedication and passion, his lottery stand has become a local news center. Everybody went to him to tell their stories so he could post the stories on Pebble. And at that time, commercial TV started to call for typhoon footage from ordinary citizens, and this was the first time they were doing that. But as opposed to the commercial use of people's stories just as footage, we promote citizen journalism and we promote citizen participation. This is the special page we created for Morocco. And we also conducted special news, bulletin news on Pebble and also on the PTS main channel. And the stories were also widely used by TITV.
镜头守护家园公民记者力量大。这几天在 Pebble 公民新闻平台上，我们陆续看到公民记者对于水灾的醒思以及检讨的相关报道。另外也有些。
And we also conducted special workshops, primarily in the indigenous flood-stricken areas. And the guy in the center, the guy with glasses, Wang Jianxiong, is one of our key members. He's here to back me up. We have a very small team. We only have about 4 or 5 staff to support this network. And I think that the beauty of this is that victims become citizen reporters and they voice out for their own communities. And they were quoted by newspapers, commercial TV, Google. And they continue to do so. In all of our channels, the main channel, the Hakka channel, TITV, we used a lot of the citizen reporter stories. And last December, I went to Tokyo to attend PBI, Public Broadcasters International Annual Conference. And I also presented our efforts on the People Post platform. And so a guy from Apple liked it and then got in touch with us and put it on iPod podcasting. Okay, these are some of the stories filed by our citizen reporters in indigenous communities and adapted by TITV.
都很清楚那块地方，那个地很平，然后所以它的交通很方便。你生活上所需要的空间、所需要的机能，它通通都有。那它的安全性。
These are stories widely ignored by the media or even by the government, and a lot of their situations are unknown to the public or to the government. So through Pebble, we get information, and they can get help.
例如，去年11月18号，行政院的中央重建委员会前往台东富山灾区，划定了这个富山部落是危险地区，划设为特定区，也几乎就在相同的时间公告这个富山部落的迁村地点就在。
And they would let people know what the victims or the people in the affected areas really think, as opposed to what the government's plan for them are. This is another example. This is also a largely ignored community.
需要长期的照顾，而现在负责心灵重建跟文化重建的
It deals
教会
with
团体真的帮了很大
psychological reconstruction
这
after
土石
the
流下
disaster.
来的时候，就是像那种很。
And reporting continues through reconstruction process 6 months after the typhoon. So far, we have more than 1,000 stories filed. And this January, we provided 21 DVs for our citizen reporters, the most active citizen reporters who have done a great job on Typhoon Morakot. And 19 of them went to indigenous communities.
全部就掏空，那个房子都往。小心，之前这个是在上面一点哦。信宝宝说，对。
他们都有人来看。
And we have a plan this year to expand on this program, to focus particularly on indigenous areas and encourage people in indigenous communities to sign up as citizen reporters. Our goal this year is to recruit 30 more citizen reporters throughout the indigenous communities. And in conclusion, I'd like to quote Phil Harding, a former head of BBC World Service, who visited us last December. He was particularly interested in People Post service, and we gave him a briefing. And then a few weeks ago, he wrote an article in The Guardian saying that the People Post, could well be a model for citizen journalism in the future. And I thank you for listening. I believe we have 5 minutes for questions.
I'd like to know a bit more about this. In the meantime, I've got 2 questions. Have you come across any issues that cause defamation, and how do you handle the potential for defamation or slander and the reflection onto TITV? And the other question is there any payment to the journal or the citizen journalists?
By that question, I can tell you are a professional journalist, because we're all concerned about editing and defamation and stuff like that. honestly, there has been no problem with defamation or slander. They're on their own. They're responsible for their own reports. We don't edit, but we ask them to pay attention to the facts. So it's peer review. Other citizen reporters would look at their reports, and if they see their problems, they would call us, or they would post their opinion on the website. And we would call up the citizen reporter and tell them that there are such criticism or opinions, so would you consider? And sometimes they would take off the reports. So far, we've had no problems concerning that, and it's free. We provide all the services free, and they post their stories on their own. But if their stories are used by our channels, we pay them a small fee. Yes, please.
It's an amazing accomplishment. I was just wondering, with the one of the clips I see, it said that you provide some of the equipment. What equipment do you provide, and how do you determine who to provide it to?
It's just a set of small DVDs. But this year we're thinking about upgrading the equipment a little bit. For instance, maybe a slightly better microphone and a small tripod, something like that. But it doesn't really cost much. It costs less. It costs about $1,600, $1,700 US for a whole set. And what was the second question?
How do you determine who you provide the equipment to?
To the most actively participating reporters who need them the most. Some people can afford to buy the equipment themselves. Some people can go with just a cell phone or a small digital camera, but some people cannot afford better equipment, so those are the criteria. Yes, Professor Fu from Tsinghua University.
Yes, about the facility, as I know that in Taiwan, our Ministry of Education, we already set up about 168 digital centers in rural areas. And one of the 168 digital centers is, I usually stay there, and I work with those indigenous friends, and we participate in paper news also. So I suggest that probably paper news, that you can have a connection with those 168 digital centers. Then those indigenous friends in rural areas, they can have facilities to provide more paper news. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's my suggestions.
Thank you. We'll follow up on that. Yes, Tanga from Maori TV. Our beloved brother.
I'll be unbeloved after this question. No, but I just want to congratulate you and your team.
Thank you.
Because citizen journalism or nomadic journalism is something that we've investigated, but we've bought some of the equipment to do that, to train our own journalists to become VJs. But the second part of actually connecting with the community is really the next step for us. And I see the benefits for news when I saw this concept 2 or 3 years ago, but I also see the benefit for recording oral histories in our language, and that we don't have to do, Māori television doesn't have to do the work. There's people out in the communities with some pretty basic facilities. But I think the problem is some people think we're compromising quality when we let others externally do that. But I suppose that is my question. Do you feel that the quality was compromised, or in some of those situations that some of the vision that you got was just was gold?
Well, this is basically UGC on the internet. So quality is not the primary concern. Although we would love them to improve the quality if they will, and we would love to provide all the assistance they need if they want to improve the quality. I think for the stories that I've seen, I think the quality problem actually relies on their ability to tell a good story. Shaky camera work, that's okay, that can be improved easily. But being able to tell a good story is not an easy thing. So that's something that we can work on. As to the vision, I think you can see the vision being realized because you're turning ordinary citizens into active, participating citizens, citizens who voice their opinions, who voice their concerns, who call upon people's attention to the important issues in their own communities. And I think that's grassroots democracy. I really see the beauty of that. Jean?
Thank you. Quick question for you. Has any of your own news staff ever felt threatened by people reporters? Have they ever felt that maybe
Not that I know of, but I think that's unfortunate. I think they should.
Well, and that's...
They're just not paying enough attention to what's going on this platform.
And that's the point I'm raising. Is it getting to a level that maybe what's coming out of people is more relevant to people than what traditional journalists end up doing on occasion?
Yeah, I've been hearing loud and clear complaints from our colleagues working their heads off on the People platform that the news people in our newsrooms are not paying enough attention to what's going on. But you know professionals.
I do.
It takes a while. Professor Huang. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Muliwai, please. Yes.
Thank you, Dan Vandel from Canada. I'm wondering how often does People Poll reporting actually get bought by one of the mainstream broadcasters or the public broadcasters?
On a regular basis, only once in a while. Only once in a while. But on special occasions such as this enormous disaster, it was totally different. Some of their footage and stories were widely used and quoted by the news media here and even abroad.
And is there ever any investigative pieces that occur, or is it?
Yes.
There are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There have been investigative pieces, particularly in Taitung, about environmental issues, about environmental disasters and things that border on violating the law and all that. And it was filed by our citizen reporters, and it caused the attention of the county speaker, and the issues were addressed.
Thank you.
我好記得晒呢個普通話，就叫我講。I just wonder because your team is so amazing and you have done well for the people. But you mentioned that you create a lot of opportunity to empower indigenous people. I just wonder what is the basic from the empowerment of the indigenous people in your mind?
You mean definition of empowerment?
Yep.
Do I have a minute to write a thesis? Well, I think the principle is the same, that they actively want to participate in the process. They want to do something for their own people and their own communities, and they tell us about it. and we offer all the assistance we can. And the rest is their own work. I thank you very much.
Thank you, President Fong. PTS has received great and positive feedback on citizen journalism. I'm sure there are more questions. We can continue the discussion after the conference. We would also like to mention that Ms. Fong has been devoted herself to the promotion of public broadcast in Taiwan and succeeded in rally public support and brought about the passage of Public Television Act in 1997. In 1994, she started the first ever Indigenous TV reporters training program in Taiwan and produced the first Indigenous news program, Indigenous News Magazine, a groundbreaking move that made a strong presence of the Indigenous people in Taiwan on the TV scene. So thank you, Ms. Fong, for your presentation and for your work. Our next keynote speaker, Tanya Denning, has worked in the media industry for more than a decade in fields spanning from community broadcasting to executive television production and management. Her media career began after completing a Bachelor of Arts in 1996 in Canberra, in central Queensland. Tanya worked as presenter, producer in community radio in Canberra, Brisbane, and Sydney before completing an ABC journalism cadetship that extended her career into online TV and radio producer for ABC and SBS. In May 2007, Tanya joined National Indigenous Television as one of its first commissioning editors. In this position, Tanya executive produced a range of programs from a variety of genres, including children's and music to live sport and entertaining program. Let's welcome Tanya Denning.
Stand or not? I'm in between. Is that better? Gaia, that's hello in my language, Berigubba. I'm from the east coast of Australia near the Whitsunday areas, beautiful part. Before I go on any further, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on whose lands we're all gathering here today for this wonderful event. I'd also like to acknowledge the Witbc Council members and thank them for having me here. I'm representing not only my people, but my CEO, Ms. Patricia Turner, who is in Australia having to lobby our government to ensure NITV continues on Australian television. It's, you may have heard about 2 years ago, our Prime Minister apologised to what is the stolen generations. It's, a lot has happened in that time, but maybe not enough. I want to say that in his apology, he noted, as we begin a new chapter, we embrace with pride, admiration, and awe these great and ancient cultures we are truly blessed to have among us. Cultures that provide a unique, uninterrupted human thread linking our Australian continent to the most ancient prehistory in the world. We stand at an extraordinary moment in the history of Indigenous affairs, a time of despair, but also a time of hope, a time of great challenge, and equally a time of great opportunity. As Australia's national campfire, with a 24-hour-a-day national television service available to more than 8 million Australians and a growing presence in the digital information sphere, this is National Indigenous Television. It fills the gap in Australia's media landscape with a unique, original content that is not available anywhere else in the country or indeed the world. It grows awareness to the wider community of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and culture, and highlights the primacy of place for First Australians in the national imagination too, and so by doing so contributes to nation building and the national identity. It also contributes to the self-determination of Indigenous Australians by connecting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people together and instilling pride and confidence in sharing information crucial to issues affecting the lives of Indigenous people. It delivers economic benefits directly and indirectly to Indigenous people through employment and commercial activity, and through assisting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to build sustainable enterprises across all sectors through sharing information. It also helps to build the national identity and makes a positive contribution to Australia's reputation within the global village in the 21st century information age. NITV is now asking the Government of Australia to enter into a social partnership, embrace the full potential of this country, only fully Indigenous national television service, and see a return on the investment already made by the Australian taxpayer by fully committing to adequately fund what has grown to become an asset to all Australians. Without a commitment by the government, NITV will cease this June 30, 2010. The Prime Minister said, "Let us turn the page together, Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians, government and opposition, Commonwealth and state, and write this new chapter in our nation's story together. Let's grasp the opportunity to craft a new future for this great land, Australia." NITV stands ready to start writing this chapter within the Australian government. I'm very proud to have been a part of NITV, and I would now like to show you what we've achieved in our short 3 years. Can you play the DVD? News from the oldest culture.
The debate's too important to be so narrow.
Live from Alice Springs.
What was God to us before contact?
did a lot of sweat and... Thank you. Oh, don't need to watch that one. You can if you want. No, it's the same. You want to keep rolling? That clip was going more into all the factual programming we've done. A lot of sweat and tears going into that programming. As a viewer, it's hard to tell, what goes on behind the scenes, but we've had very tiny budgets, like a lot of broadcasters today. A lot of those programming was made with a lot of passion. We've commissioned more than 1,000 hours of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander made completely content, which is a huge achievement considering previously the ABC, SBS had only done about 1 hour a week of Indigenous programming between them, despite having the charter to deliver Indigenous programming to the Australian public. So very proud of it, hoping that the government sees the reason to keep NITV going. I'm here today to talk about not just NITV, but about 60,000 years and counting is the name, up or down, how Australia's Aboriginal people live by sustainable conservation is my topic. As you've just seen, NITV showcases programs that highlight important Indigenous sustainable conservation practices and knowledge. NITV is respectful of Indigenous cultural heritage and knowledge, so make sure that all programs are cleared for Indigenous cultural intellectual property rights, ICIP, by the producers and the communities. ICIP refers to the rights of Indigenous people to own and be in control of their cultural heritage. This can include artworks, songs, dance, artefacts and spiritual knowledge, as well as land and sea management practices. NITV is also respectful of ICIP on the NITV Interactive website, which will broaden all accessibility to more Australians. Aboriginal culture has developed over time into a unique method of living. Everything in Aboriginal culture is placed in the proper order and has a distinct meaning and relevance. Climate and weather are very important to the Indigenous cultures and communities. NITV often broadcasts programs that share this knowledge. Australia needs to see that Indigenous traditional practices are vital for the Australian environment to be able to survive the ongoing changes of the climate. Indigenous people's knowledge needs to be adopted in a respectful and consultative manner so that all Australians can benefit from this knowledge. In this current age, when climate change is the new peril, the use of Indigenous land and sea management practices are worthwhile ventures to adopt. Many companies are eager to reduce their carbon footprint and are adapting Indigenous practices with the assistance and work from communities. NITV also plays in a role in making sure that the viewing public can see and learn from these important traditional practices that promote sustainable conservation and environmental practices. Caring for country involves traditional landowners or custodians looking after the environment, cultural and spiritual well-being of the land. This paper will look at how Indigenous communities have been caring for country for tens of thousands upon thousands of years, and how these techniques are adopted and into modern environment sustainability in Australia through ecotourism and other land management programs. The statement was made by Vicky Tuli-Kupas, Chairman of the United Nations Body on Indigenous Issues, at the Indigenous Peoples Global Summit on Climate Change in April last year. A clear voice of Indigenous peoples needs to be heard by the rest of the world community, and their insights honoured in a critically important climate change discussion now underway. When it comes to implementing mitigation and adaptation strategies, the world will gain greatly from proven ancient approaches built on the profound respect for the earth. There are many different communities around Australia that still practice and maintain their traditional ways of fire management, for example. This practice involves controlled early dry season fires to create fire breaks. This practice minimises destructive late by dry season wildfires and maximises biodiversity protection according to the Science online source. It was suggested at the Indigenous Peoples Global Summit that similar fire management practices should be adopted in the savannas of other countries in Africa, Asia and South America. There is a project called West Arnhem Land Fire Abatement, which is being held in Northern Australia to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 480,000 tonnes. This project is an example of traditional knowledge and practices being used to combat modern-day climate change. The traditional communities and owners from West Arnhem have agreed to generate 100,000 tonnes of carbon credits annually through traditional fire management, employing Indigenous rangers to offset greenhouse emissions from ConocoPhillips. The benefits of local communities, including greater employment, intergenerational transfers of traditional knowledge, and sustainable business initiatives, is also encouraging healthier living and long-term livelihood by preventing a reliance on welfare. It allows Indigenous people in remote communities to be proud of their culture and see how it can benefit the rest of Australia. Indigenous tourism is a tourism activity in which Indigenous people are directly involved either through control or by having their culture serve as an essence of attraction. Indigenous ecotourism also refers to community tourism projects developed on Indigenous lands and territories in Latin America, Australia, Africa, Asia and Canada. Ecotourism needs to be empowering for communities and is definitely a form of economic empowerment. The economic benefit of ecotourism aims to assist nature conservation and provide returns to local communities through employment, purchases of goods and services, as well as fees. There are many examples of Indigenous ecotourism across the country in different models with different communities. The various ecotourism models include park revenue, sharing with local communities, private operators, business-owned or co-owned with Indigenous communities, and so forth. Each model is different but promotes economic stability and caring for country. These models also allow Indigenous communities to have a say in how their tribal lands are treated and control over their ISIP in the form of traditional knowledge and practices. In Northern Arnhem Land, the Yothu Yindi Foundation has set up the annual Garma Festival held on an eco-friendly site at Nhulunbuy, Northern Territory. This festival comprises musical workshops, cultural tours, and workshops for women and men. Key forums on Indigenous issues to do with country and culture. The festival site is held in the bush and participants camp on site. This festival is extremely popular with the middle class, urban dwellers to come and get an eco-friendly Indigenous experience. This festival is an example of economic empowerment to the local Yolngu people, who benefit from the festival fees and allows the Yolngu people to control their culture and how it is used. As an ex-park ranger and an academic, Heather Zappel states, community-based models include psychological, social, political and economic empowerment or disempowerment. In North Queensland, there is a popular Jukbar Aboriginal community park in Kuranda. It has stunning theatrical and symbolic interpretation of cultural events. It is a great cultural experience in Cairns, which pulls in many overseas visitors due to the tropical climate and the Great Barrier Reef. The sharing of knowledge and tradition is done in a way which is controlled by Indigenous operators and is respectful in the way that they wish. This commercialisation of Indigenous tourism is one way for Indigenous peoples to take advantage and control of their future stories and knowledge. NITV takes a role in promoting these invaluable Indigenous ecotourism through a number of programs. just to run through a couple. I've recently commissioned a program from the South East Queensland Traditional Owners Association. This group of elders have never made television before, but they are now presenting a 4-part series on NITV that will show examples of land management and also how they negotiate with the government on controlling the actual negotiations of the land management. Another program called Grounded, which you saw a bit of a snippet of, is a youth program, and the young people have also taken control and showing how they like to have their land managed. It's quite successful, and it's a great example of the youth really feeling empowered about their own culture. We've also acquired many programs, including international programs from, particularly from Canada, on sustainability. It's a very important issue, and it affects Indigenous people every day, particularly in Australia. Before I talk anymore, I want to show another program that I guess we've been talking about the solution. The solution is with Indigenous people, but this is a program just hot off the press, current affairs show called Momentum. It hasn't quite finished, but to show you really how important this issue is for Australia's Indigenous people, I want you to take a look at this program. It's also actually, it's Momentum. Yeah. Oh.
Australians who are most vulnerable to climate change are Torres Strait Islanders. On Saibai, the community sits only 1 metre above sea level. In January, they were warned a king tide would rise sea levels by 3.8 metres.
Well, you don't have to look very far to get a fair understanding on what climate change is happening to our world. Level of sea rising, any natural disaster that happens north of our region actually has an impact in our area. So when we're talking about hurricanes in the Philippines or earthquakes around Indonesia, we see huge king tides, and that causes a lot of inundation in our area and throughout our communities.
I'm standing on the main street of Saibai in the Torres Strait Islands, where there is no protection from the sea. If the climate continues to change and there is no immediate political action, flooding will become more frequent, and one day these people may very well become Australia's first environmental refugees, forced to leave the land they love.
I think I've been told that my time's out. So do I?
We're born here, we will live here, we will die here.
Keep going? Unfortunately, my time's up. So I would, if you want to look at the larger picture of that program, I guess I'm around for the next couple of days. Sorry that my time's run up. That program goes into the problems, but also obviously the solutions, which I wanted to talk about today. So thank you for listening on this issue, and yeah. Okay. Oh.
Thank you, Tanya. We will take a break for 15 minutes. Please return by 11:15. Thank you.